What's going on? I'm going to do a walk around video of my 2001 LB7 Duramax. It's a GMC crew cab long bed dually. And it was bone stock when I first got it. I've made a couple of mods over the past year that I've owned it. Originally it was a flatbed vehicle owned by the state of Alaska. And then it belonged to a whale watch tour business. They use this to pull out their boats. Now I own it. First thing I did is put my camper on the back of it. I had this on my other truck originally. It's actually made for like an S10 or a Ford Ranger. So being on the back of the dually, it just handles like a regular canopy on a truck, really. Doesn't even feel like a camper's on there. For the mods, not really a mod, but it needed new tires, so I put the biggest tire I could fit on here, which was 235/85 R16s. These are the stock rims. These are KO2s. Picked up a set of 6 of them from Costco for $1,200. Includes disposal of the old tires. No spacers, and they do not rub. Got ½ inch there, maybe. We probably put a little layer in there, but even with the canopy on the back, or with the camper on the back, they don't rub. I took this through Canada, and I took it down to Prince of Wales Island this summer. Drove around the mountains and stuff and didn't have a problem with the tires at all. Well, I got it flat. I had to fix that, but it wasn't anything bad. Not because the tires are rubbing, because I ran over a nail. Other mods I've done. I put this AFE Stage 2 Magnum cold air intake on here a couple of weeks ago. Can't really speak to the fuel mileage gain, but it does have a little more get up and go, a little better throttle response. I mostly got it for the EGTs. A little quieter than the stock box, surprisingly, maybe because the cotton filter is really thick. Also, I Swiss cheats the stock box on here by drilling a bunch of holes in it, so it got better airflow, which did make it a lot louder than this dry filter. Surprisingly, I went with the dry filter because it gets pretty dusty here in the summertime, so just easier to hose this thing off with some air pressure a couple of times and then get a new one. Also got a PPE boost valve on Amazon Prime for about $27. And it just goes right on the wastegate there. The idea is that it has a higher PSI, or the turbo has a higher PSI threshold with this thing on there, and it will hold its PSI a little longer, so you get a little more power out of it. Hopefully a little better fuel economy. I haven't really noticed the fuel economy between the two with town driving, but if I need to pass somebody, even with this big old camper on it, I do not have a problem. Also, the fast lift pump with the water separator and the fuel filter. These are just the stock filters on there right now, made by Fast. This is the 95 gallon per hour setup. Didn't take long to install, a couple hours maybe. You gotta plumb in the hose into the suction return line into the tank. And if you get the 95 gallon per hour, you don't have to do anything extra to your fuel tank. You just plumb it in, and And then you run wire that it came with through the bottom, zip tie it up, and it's kind of a mess, but there's a lot of wire. And then I ran it to my battery down here. And then plugged it into the fuse box on ignition E10A. So it only turns on when the engine turns on, or when you turn the electrical on. Still has the stock exhaust on it for now. I'm going to wait till the snow melts, and then I'm going to throw the 4-inch on there. Stock exhaust. I'll patch this up too. That's how I bought it. It came a little banged up and stitched up, but that's what you get when you have a stock truck. Other things I've done, I put the this Dorman rear diff cover on that I picked up from Amazon Prime. The old one was kind of banged up and rusty, and I just said fuck it and replaced it. It was pretty cheap, I think like 20 bucks or less. Also, you can probably see it, I had a brake line blowout at the end of summer right when I came back, and so I put these stainless steel lines on front to back. Also Dorman, bought it on Amazon Prime for about 117 bucks. Came with 7 lines. And my buddy and I installed it. I think the most difficult part was running the line from rear driver all the way up to this little ABS box that's under here. And the reason why it was difficult is you had to run it over the gas tank, kind of in between the frame and the gas tank. A lot of people will remove the bed or drop the gas tank to do it, but if you have a buddy, you can jimmy it around. It'll take you about 15-20 minutes. At least that's how long it took us. Interior's nothing special. Like I said, it was a work truck, so this top end is kind of ruined. Needs to be replaced. My dog, let's get it all set up here. Set it up for the dogs, keep them warm. Got this little inverter. It's a 500 watt power inverter that I picked up from Amazon for about 35 bucks, and hardwired that into the battery, and it works great. I charge all my cell phone stuff on it and laptops. Run the fan and this little heater when it gets super cold. It also comes with an attachment to plug into one of these little 12 volters, and you'll get 150 watts out of it instead of 500, but works great for, just laptops and small stuff, phones. I got a 2000 watt inverter back in the camper, but really when it comes down to it, all I really need and all I really use is the 500 watt. What else did I do to this? The first thing to go out was the transmission position control sensor, which is right there. Let's see if I can get this. And I picked that up from Amazon Prime as well, like pretty much everything else, for 112. I can't remember exactly. If you got to replace one of those, just because the LB7 is a pretty awful design for these sensors, they're not waterproof, so you got to make sure to put dielectric grease in the connectors, of course, and then cover it in some kind of sealant, the whole thing in some kind of sealant. Otherwise, it will burn out. Mine burnt, the first one burnt out in a month because I didn't properly seal it, so I had to buy another one. And I haven't had a problem in the past year that it's been on there since then. Let's see. What else did I do to it? go ahead and start it up. You can hear the 95 gallon per hour fast lift pump really isn't that loud unless you get right up on it. That's even with the stock exhaust. Cold air intake's pretty quiet. The reason why I went the AFE, cold air intake, over others. So I originally was going to get the S&B, but I waited too long, and as I'm sure some of you guys know, they raised the price by about 30 bucks, and then with shipping and handling up to Alaska, it made the air intake, between $450 and $500, and I was like, nope, I don't want to spend that much. Something that I'm just going to use to lower my AGTs. Maybe get a little more airflow out of. So I went with the AFE Stage 2, which is $237 on Amazon Prime, so free shipping. And then at that point, it made it worth it for me again once I found this. I thought I'd give it a try, as opposed to just leaving it stock with the Swiss cheese box, which works great as well. But wanted a cold air intake, because I'm going to do the exhaust here pretty soon as well. Also got the PPE tuner plugged in. I can do a review of that, but I didn't bring it out here with me. It pretty much just lives in level 2, which is a 90 horsepower tune, and I can't remember the torque, 160 pounds of torque boost. Thing handles like a dream. Mileage, the best I could squeeze out of is like closer to 13. In town I get like 10.5 to 11, but that was before I added everything but the tuner, so we'll see what it gets this summer when I take it out road tripping again after I get the exhaust and everything on there. And I'm sure the injector is being changed will help when we get to that. For the exhaust, I think I'm just going to go for the 4-inch straight pipe. It is a hunting vehicle, but these Duramaxes are pretty quiet, so I'm not really too worried about scaring the mountainside away with it. I may do a muffler, who knows. Pretty easy to do. See, there's a little gap here. My buddy and I were putting this camper on this time last year, and we're sliding it in by hand once we got it most of the way on the bed, and we started slipping and sliding because there was snow everywhere, so we only got it most of the way in, which actually worked out nicely because I have all the storage space for wood and tools and shit. This is actually diesel. I just used my gas can. Should probably paint it and mark it or something, but I haven't done that yet. But yeah, it's kind of nice having that extra storage. There's usually a bunch of wood up here, which it's kind of nice if I've been traveling all day and just want to set up a fire without spending too much time on camp. But this is the truck. Mostly Amazon Prime parts, or just Amazon. I don't think the Fast was Prime. I think I had to pay shipping on that. It was like $613 or $650 or something like that. It's really not that bad. And you'll definitely want a lift pump if you have a Duramax, just because, as you're aware, they have filtration problems to the injectors. So anytime you can get better filtration in your fuel system for these things, the happier your injectors will be for longer. Future mods, I think I'm gonna go with the PPE Stage 5 transmission, the 1200 horsepower holding capacity, which is more than I'll ever make this thing, but it's nice to know that my transmission will be strong enough to handle whatever I want. And I think I'm going to go for the 64mm Stealth turbo. It's pretty good reviews. This thing's my Overlander, my adventure mobile. I got a little skiff that'll tow once I get that pepped up, but and I'll put a bigger camper on it, and I think I'm going to change the rear bed over to a utility bed so I have extra storage. So there'll be compartments on the side, up top, on that side, and we'll see what happens first. I'll either buy a bigger camper or I'll build one. This summer though, so I'm not ready to make a huge purchase on that yet or invest too much, so I'm just going to redo the inside, re-insulate it, get it pepped up. Had a leak last year and there's some water damage on the inside, but I patched it, but there's still water damage, so I'm going to go ahead and replace all that, make it look nice. Running it this summer and maybe sell it next summer or next spring. That's my truck. I could do reviews, individual reviews on the parts if you like. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment. If you want to see more videos or see where this truck goes in the summertime or even in the wintertime, I'll take you on some cruises, take you in the mountains, take you out to some of my fishing spots and hunting spots and camping spots. Yeah, it's what I do with my free time. But until next time, see you later.